Good morning, everyone. Hello. Hi, good morning, folks. Welcome to the RiverWoods Manchester Floor Plan Reveal. I'm Cathleen Toomey, Vice President of Marketing of the RiverWoods Group, and my colleague Kevin Goyette, the CFO, is here today. And we are doing a really special presentation that we haven't done before. Because so many of you are new to RiverWoods Manchester, today's presentation, the bulk of it is going to be about our contract, how we operate as a system, all of the financial questions and organizational questions you might have. We have Kevin Goyette here, who has been our CFO for 16 years?
Something like that.
Something like that. He stopped counting.
I was never good with numbers.
So,
just kidding.
Just from a housekeeping standpoint, let me ask you, if you're sitting with your back facing, just spin your chairs around and get nice and comfortable so that you can hear and see everything that's going on. And there are cards and pens on your tables. They are there for your use. We want to make sure that every question that you have about RiverWoods Manchester, about our organization, about the financial operations, about anything you can think of, we are here to answer that. That's our favorite part of any question. So at any point in time during Kevin's presentation and my presentation, just write down those questions and we will come and collect them before we're finished and answer all of your questions. That's number one. Number two, those cell phones. Put your hand on your cell phone. Turn the little ringer off. Just to make sure that you're not that person during the presentation. So as I said, I'm the VP of Marketing here. I've been at RiverWoods as a little shorter than Kevin, I think 15 years to his 16 or 16 to his 17. We're both teenagers in this. In this space, but we both love the community and have been here a long time and have a lot of opportunity to answer your questions. So cards and pens on the tables, cell phones off. We're going to do the presentation, then we're going to call you up by table for a fabulous lunch. And let me just say, thank you for being here. You are our Cottage Priority Program members. We have a very limited number of memberships that we have been able to offer people, and now we're closed. Now we're done. So you have the chance to move into a RiverWoods Manchester cottage. Nobody else does. You have to be here in order to do that. By the end of the presentation today, we'll give you a sense of what the floor plans look like, answer all those questions, but among all the people here, 18 of you will be able to move into a brand new home very soon. So thank you for that. So Kevin is the CFO. He knows everything numbers oriented. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what is a CCRC, because a lot of people don't understand it. And even if you think you know, there are different contract types. We're going to also talk about the RiverWoods Group. Who are we? We are the largest independent, nonprofit CCRC family in northern New England. And we have grown tremendously in the last 16, 17 years. We have been around for 30 years as of next year. Tell you a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about why is it important that we are a nonprofit, and what's the difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit. Talk specifically about RiverWoods Manchester, everything that's happened there. I'm going to hop in and talk about the floor plan reveal, and then we're going to talk about next steps. If you are interested in securing a cottage, what do you need to do when you walk out of this room? Okay, sound good? We're all here for the right reasons? All right. Take it away, Kevin.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. Good morning, everyone. Any accountants in the room? Oh, one who will admit it, right? I promise there will not be many numbers today. It really is a financial overview of not only our industry, but also our RiverWoods Manchester specifically, and a little on the cottages as well before you get to the great reveal on the floor plans and what the next steps are. As we go along, if there's anything that you need clarification on, please raise your hand, let me know. I know we're going to be writing down questions, but if there's something you just can't wait, perfectly fine to put your hand up. And as we go through this morning, and I'm looking at the buffet table getting set up out there. Think about this presentation as really a buffet. There's no way we can cover all of the financial topics of the industry, of our system, of RiverWoods Manchester specifically, in the time we have allotted. So I may go over stuff at a little higher level, but again, if you have additional questions as you go through this process, we have great sales counselors that have a great understanding of the financials of the organization as well, and we always can have follow-ups as well. So I'm going to start out first with really just what's a CCRC, or what's a continuing care retirement community? It's both an insurance product and it's a lifestyle choice. And from an insurance product standpoint, it's actually an insurance contract that you would sign if you became a RiverWoods Manchester resident. You don't own tangible. If you hear me squeaking, this floor is really sticky. I promise I won't be slipping today, Kathleen. But we are regulated by the State of New Hampshire Insurance Department, and typically most insurance departments across the state, various states, will regulate their continuing care retirement communities. So you're buying an insurance contract, and one of the provisions of that contract says you essentially have a place to live for the rest of your life, which gets us into the lifestyle change choice. You actually are planning now, while you can live independently, where you want to set up shop, where you want to live out the rest of your life. Even if now you can live independently, if in the future you need assisted living, memory support, nursing care, you're able to receive that at the community, and specifically at RiverWoods Manchester. We have all levels of care there to serve you. And while you have that available to you, there are an immense amount of programming and social needs or wants that you would be able to fulfill there as well. Tons of clubs. We're in the process of setting up a resident finance committee at RiverWoods Manchester. There's a resident council. There's knitting clubs. You name it, and if it isn't there, we could probably set one up with your fellow residents. And that's really inspiring as well. And the last piece, non-financial, is you don't have to do the maintenance around the house anymore. So as the leaves fall and you look at the yard cleanup, that's something that our crew takes care of. Shoveling snow, something our crew takes care of. So it's really the lifestyle part of it.
And I'm going to jump in here, and thanks very much. I'm going to jump in here just because a lot of, and I'm really not going to jump all over your
After
presentation.
16 years, we're good at this together, right, Kathleen?
I think one of the things that is so surprising to people think of RiverWoods Manchester and joining RiverWoods Manchester as a real estate business. It's not real estate. It is not, you're not buying a house. You are signing an insurance organization with a community. You agree to provide your housing and nursing care for the rest of your life. So when you think about this, it looks like you're buying a house, but you're not. This is insurance. Because it is an insurance program, a portion of your one-time entrance fee and a portion of your monthly fees are tax deductible. Because the government assumes that you are pre-paid for your future health care. Anyway.
Well, that was perfect, Kathleen, because you took the first part of this slide. So we'll move on to the industry itself. About 80% of the continuing care retirement communities across the nation are not-for-profit. And there's a reason for that. If you think of a not-for-profit, we have a mission, and we have to be in business forever. We call it perpetuity. So we make very prudent decisions because we have to make long-term commitments. Somebody moves in today, at the end of their contract, they're owed a refund. We have to make sure we're able to deliver that. If you have a for-profit mindset, The for-profits, they'll get out there, they're quicker to move, but they have an out strategy. They're going to be in the business, just what it says, for-profit. They're in the business for a period of time, and then they're looking to monetize their investment and move on to the next thing. That's not how we play as a not-for-profit in the organization. The other big difference for a not-for-profit is a benevolence clause. You won't find this I haven't found a for-profit yet that would offer this, but essentially it says, once we accept you into our community and you have been fiduciary responsible for your assets, if you outlive your assets, as long as it's not going to hurt the overall community, we can provide you, and we will provide you, financial assistance, benevolence, so that you can stay in the community. So you can outlive your assets and still not be asked to leave. If you came in the day after you gifted your assets to your kids, that's a different story. But as long as you are careful with your assets, once we say yes, we have the ability to provide that financial assistance as a not-for-profit. The other thing I would say, too, before I move on, is it's very, very hard now in the marketing materials to discern between for-profits and not-for-profits. The for-profits have gotten really good at their website making it look like it's a not-for-profit. So really dig down as you're looking at potentially other options as well. Get into the details. So again, we've kind of covered I'll go over these fairly quickly, but it's a lifestyle choice. You're typically able to make the decision when you're independently. You're at least 62, if not older. Our regulations require if one or both people to be at least 62 years old. 4 levels of care or 3 levels of care. Sometimes people will look at memory support and say that's a subset of assisted living. Manchester has independent assisted living, a separate memory support unit, and nursing care. So all levels of care there. And you get services and amenities at all levels. And what's really neat, non-financially based, but it's a new social network for people. And we've had 100-year-old birthday parties. We've had residents come in at 80 years old that have said, hey, I have a new best friend. I never thought I'd make a new best friend at 80 years old. It's really interesting to see those relationships develop, and not only amongst residents, but also amongst the staff as well. Nationwide, not-for-profit. This slide, I'll give credit to Ziegler Investment Banking. They are the largest not-for-profit investment banker in the country. They do about at least half of the financing deals for the not-for-profits on an annual basis, and we work very closely with them. So this shows you the makeup of the various systems across the nation. Anybody in the middle of that map, there's a square that's white with no CCRCs there. Anybody recognize that state? It's Wyoming. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Wyoming, but they haven't got the concept yet. Alaska doesn't have any either, but interestingly, there are 6 not-for-profit CCRCs, life plan communities in Hawaii, which is way over there on the bottom left. But about 2,000 CCRCs nationwide. It has its roots in Pennsylvania. It was really a 100-year-old industry plus more than 100 years old. Pennsylvania, Quakers, that's where it all started. If you go down to Philadelphia, you probably will have CCRCs on almost every other block. It's so common down there. It's a little different in the Northeast here. But the best kept secret, RiverWoods Manchester, it has 100 years plus of history. It started out in Manchester as the Women's Aid Home. Over time, it has changed into different things. It has grown. You may have heard it as Hillcrest Manor or Birch Hill or Birch Hill Terrace or Hillcrest Terrace, Pearl Manor. Those are all different names. We're pretty partial to RiverWoods Manchester. That's where we're going to be for a long time. That's our expectation. It is part of our overall system, which I'll get into in a couple minutes. Became Manchester's first CCRC in 2009. It's a Type B contract, so it has an insurance component, as Cathleen talked about. You receive a benefit as you pay your monthly service fee in independent living. You'll receive a discount off of market rate if you have to move to assisted living or memory support or nursing care later on in life. You get a discount. So in your monthly service fee, there's an insurance component. It's been affiliated with the RiverWoods Group since 2016, so almost 6.5 years. It was July 8th, 2016. The day after it affiliated, we refinanced its debt on July 9th, and we went from a cost of capital of 7.5% to 2.22%. That's one of the values of the system. The organization was so small it wasn't able on its own to refinance, but when we had the backing of the system, we were able to cut its debt load by 2/3. And it's, again, the best kept secret. It's 10 minutes from downtown, but it's in a very quaint rural setting, so you get the best of both worlds. Some people will say 501c3, by the way, that's an IRS designation for a charitable not-for-profit organization. What are the benefits of living in a charitable organization, or not-for-profit? There are many. The first is when we build the community or when we reinvest in it, we're able to issue tax-exempt bonds. So we borrow in the old days, it was about 67 cents on the dollar. With the change in the tax rate, it's about 80 cents on the dollar. But we issue debt at a lower cost. Another beauty of it is we don't pay income tax, and we don't pay capital gains tax. So on our investments, as we're earning out in the markets, at the end of the year, we don't pay Uncle Sam a capital gains tax. We actually are able to keep that and reinvest that back into the organization. Another value of a 501c3 is that there are no stakeholders. So while Cathleen and I draw our salary, we're not shareholders. There are no shareholders. So as the organization generates profits, or margin, as I like to call it in the not-for-profit world, it stays in the community. It's reinvested back onto the balance sheet for the benefit of the whole community. So what that means for all of you, if you were to become residents of RiverWoods, Manchester, if we made a surplus in any given year, it's revenue and cash that we have available that will offset future years. So it keeps your fees at a much more reasonable basis, and you're not paying somebody else who is on the outside. Medical tax deductions, as Cathleen has talked about already, and I'll spend a little more time there. That's for you all. It's a prepaid medical expense while you're in independent living, a portion of it. And then when you're in the health center, it's actually a full medical deduction on your tax returns. I'm not a CPA, so your taxes will be a little different for each of you, but in general, you are able to deduct portions of your monthly service fees and the entrance fee as a prepaid medical deduction. And the other nice thing is, as a not-for-profit, people who donate to the community, so from the outside, if we have fundraisers, it encourages people to give to a charitable cause. They get a tax deduction. We're able to encourage people to actually donate to our benevolent fund, for example. It's less money that we have to look at from the operating community to fund our ongoing expenses. That's Ginger up there. Ginger's a mainstay, the four-legged friend. Very friendly, loves to visit the community. A 501c3, one of the misnomers for a not-for-profit or a nonprofit is you can make no profit. That's actually not true. And if it were true, we'd probably all be out of business. We have to run and we have to make positive margin in any given year. You'll hear me say the word margin a lot as opposed to net income. Net income really screams of for-profits. Margin is being able to cover all of your expenses with cash revenue coming in and having a little left over for those adverse conditions that may come up. So when I joined the industry 17 years ago, and I've been CFO for 16 years, it took me a year. But when I joined, the first conference I went to, the only thing I took away from there, other than it was in Stone Mountain, Georgia, which I had never been to, which was interesting, but was no margin, no mission. So you can't serve your mission if you don't generate a margin on an ongoing basis. And it's what I describe as the barbell approach. You have community, and it's an incredible community, but you also have to run it like a business. Sometimes those two things aren't congruous. So if you've seen the Olympics, you've seen those big weightlifter dudes and women that were pushing up these big barbells. Think about community on one side, business on the other side. When they're pushing up all that weight, it's not always going up straight from the get-go. It's kind of wavering. But when it gets over the shoulders, it's balanced. So we're constantly trying to do that with our business model as well, balancing what is right for our residents and our staff with how do we make sure we run a successful business. I'm going to switch now, coming down from 30,000 feet in the industry and looking at the IRS piece to the system of communities. So it all started with RiverWoods Exeter. In 1994, we opened up our first community, the Woods, Exeter, New Hampshire. Grassroots, no affiliations with any universities, no fraternal organizations, just two little old ladies, literally, Rosemary Coffin and Mariana Hatch, sitting around a dinner table for a decade. I wish I had a picture. I should have brought a picture of them as well. Usually I do show it, but sitting around a dinner table in the 1980s saying, how do we make this concept work? We don't have any money, but how do we make this concept work? And it took them a full decade to line up architects, developers, construction people to put the Woods into place. It filled, it was bustling at the seams, very well received, developed a significant wait list. About 10 years later, we bought land across the street and broke ground on the Ridge campus. That was a rip-roaring success. So 5 or 6 years later, we opened up our Boulders campus on that same parcel of land across the street, and now had one community, RiverWoods Exeter, with 3 campuses. Very vibrant. And by the way, we built the Boulders and broke ground on that in the heat of the Great Recession. So it was a scary time at that point, and we were leveraging what we had, the success of the Woods campus and the Ridge campus. We felt very strongly, as did the board, about the Boulders, but in the middle of the recession, what they said to us is, go forward, get that debt issued, get the building built. We trust you that it will be occupied, but we never can grow like this again. And so we came out of that. It did. It filled up in 9 months, 10 months. And what we started as soon as the Boulders was done is we formed the RiverWoods group. So RiverWoods Exeter, as a not-for-profit, its board made the conscious decision, an informed decision, to form not a parent company. In the for-profit world, it's referred to as a parent, but in the not-for-profit world, it's referred to as a supporting organization. And it formed the RiverWoods Group. I mean, we were kind of creative, right? RiverWoods Group. We probably could have come up with something better if we had thought about it more, but RiverWoods Group, I purposely show that at the bottom of this slide because it's not a parent of the system. It is actually a supporting organization. In the not-for-profit world, it's referred to as the sole member. But it does have some reserved powers, but it exists to make sure these missions are being served for the existing communities and future communities, and to really coordinate the system. So at the time, it was just RiverWoods Exeter, but 6 years later, we added RiverWoods Manchester. RiverWoods Manchester, small organization as a standalone. It wasn't strong enough to really be able to go its way alone. It affiliated with us. It got the strength of the group and the strength of a sister community in RiverWoods Exeter. Not that much longer. We had a wait list at RiverWoods Exeter. We thought we'd relieve a good portion of that. Found a parcel of land in Durham, built RiverWoods Durham. That filled to 95% independent living occupancy in 3 months. Unheard of in the marketplace. And we would have filled sooner if we could have built. We actually phased the first 3 levels of independent living. It would have probably all filled in a month and a half if we had all 150 units available. We just couldn't do that construction-wise. And the last piece from this slide is some SPE or STE, someplace else, something else. We don't know what that looks like right now, but we always want it on the forefront of our boards, our prospective residents, our existing residents, our staff. If we can provide this way of life for 1,100 seniors and 800 staff members now, if there's an ability to do that responsibly in the future, we owe it to our mission to be able to do that. So while We don't have anything definitive in the works right now. We are looking at this Cottage project for RiverWoods Manchester, but that's kind of small, and that will be growth right through RiverWoods Manchester. But bigger programmings or other campuses, we think about it, but right now we are really concentrating on our existing 3 communities or 5 campuses. Some people will say, well, why not just be a single, why didn't RiverWoods Exeter stay as it was? It probably could have. It could have been with 3 campuses, it have enough mass to be wildly successful for a long, long period of time. But there is value in having strength in numbers. And I will say this, the ability through this pandemic to be a system of communities, if we didn't believe it beforehand, we have come out saying absolutely. From being able to track down COVID grant funds, one person doing it for all 3 communities as opposed to 3 communities trying to do it separately. It wasn't easy for a while. For a period of time, I was doing it. And I can't tell you how many programs we looked at. And most of them ended up being dead ends, but the ones that weren't dead ends, we could say, hey, figured this out for RiverWoods Manchester, let's apply it to RiverWoods Exeter. Now it's just an application, we've done all the legwork, or let's try for RiverWoods Durham as well. The ability to leverage that thought process throughout the systems is incredibly important. It's a well-respected organization. Just 2 weeks ago or so, our CEO, who's been with the community since the Woods campus opened in 1994. She has 28 years, Justine Vogel. She was just elected to the board of the national industry for senior living providers. It's called Leading Age. She's on that board. That's how well respected our organization is. Our residents, staff, and employees and board members are totally engaged. They live this every day. They live and breathe it every day. And, with the system, if you can try something, if it doesn't work, it's okay. You have the ability to do that. But if it works, then again, just like that COVID funding, where you're able to apply this and share best practices across a system of communities. Each of the organizations is incredibly well occupied. I'll talk a little further about how their finances are totally uncommingled, non-commingled, separate, but they all have financial strength, they're all very well run, and they all work very well together. And I came up with this buzz myself, but it's perpetuity. We have to be here forever with protection. We have the strength of the system, we can learn from each other, and we're able to leverage that and ensure all the commitments we make to all the residents every single day. The group role is really twofold. Maximize efficiencies across the system. It's kind of the gatekeeper, the organizer, and the coordinator of all the different entities. And also further the mission of the individual communities within the system and others that may join in the future. So again, not-for-profit mission. What the RiverWoods Group did, by the way, is the RiverWoods Group was set up as a supporting organization. We took it one step further and we said we want to be a 501c3. We don't want to be just a supporting organization. We want to be a charitable organization supporting these communities. So we actually pursued a 501c3 designation for the RiverWoods Group and obtained it. And that's why, because we're furthering the mission and maximizing the efficiencies across a system of not-for-profit communities. The individual communities, I can't say this enough, they are responsible for their operational and financial performance, each one individually. So I get the question all the time, Kevin, can you approve this capital request for RiverWoods Exeter? No, I can't, but you got to run that through your executive director. My role as the CFO isn't to tell the communities where they should be spending their money and where they shouldn't be spending it. Part of my role is essentially setting the bookends. Here's the area you can play in. Here's how we have to make sure we're financially strong as an organization. How you do that within the mix, that's on the executive director to manage that with his or her team. They get the benefit, though, of buying, I'm going to chuckle because I don't consider myself an expert, but they buy expertise from the RiverWoods group. So that may be the CEO, the CFO, Vice President of Marketing, CIO, other specialized project positions that a single site wouldn't actually be able to afford on its own. So yes, maybe RiverWoods Exeter could have afforded a CIO, Chief Information Officer, but Manchester couldn't and Durham couldn't. They just don't have the size. But now they get to share one and they get to split his cost across the system. So you actually get it at a discounted price. One CFO overseeing 3 communities, it works. And by the way, you also entice people to bring their specialties, and you're able to leverage that across the systems. So we have an individual at the group level, Vice President of Quality, which for you may say, well, what's that? Well, she's our healthcare guru. She knows the ins and outs of all the healthcare regulations. She knows more about the pandemic than anybody else here. She was on speed dial as we get a positive case. She was on speed dial. She knew all the regulations, and she was able to help guide us through that. An individual community wouldn't have had that luxury. Again, separate legal entities. So while Exeter has 3 campuses, it's one tax ID number. Manchester's its own tax ID number. Durham the same, and the group the same. So they all have firewalls. There's no commingling of assets between Manchester and its sister communities or to the group. It has its own debt. It has its own investment portfolio. It has its own investment policy statement that defines how its assets are invested, and it really keeps each of the entities safe. So while we do consolidate our audited financials, anybody looked at the RiverWoods Group audited financials? Talk numbers for a second? Nope. If you do, and they're posted on the websites, if you look at them, they will lead off the RiverWoods Group system of communities. And in the beginning of the audited financials, it will be consolidated. So every entity in the system rolled up into a balance sheet, an income statement, and a cash flow statement. I see my accountant friend nodding his head. But what you'll see in the footnotes is you will see probably 60 pages, or if not 50, if not 60, at least 50 pages of footnotes. And within there, we will show you all of how we slice and dice and how each of the entities have their own numbers, their own financials, and you can go in there and you can look at the metrics of Manchester, Exeter, Durham, or the group individually. So it saves us money to do one master audit, but all of the information is in there for each of the operating communities from a financial standpoint. So another thing I can't stress enough, there's no commingling of assets. Birch Hill, that was a slip. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble now. Well, it was once Birch Hill. RiverWoods Manchester is its own legal entity. It is financially solid. It has a very strong balance sheet by all measures, and it will continue to be that way. So a little about you and the contract we offer. So we talked earlier about what's referred to as a Type B contract, which has an insurance component. We could spend a whole session on the different contract types out in the marketplace, but you will, if you come to RiverWoods Manchester, put the contract in force, you'll pay a monthly service fee in independent living, you will pay a discounted rate if you should need a higher level of care later on in life. So you will not pay market rate for assisted living, memory support, or nursing care. What we have, and we put into place probably 5 years ago now, Kathleen, maybe even longer.
I think less.
We have this, yeah, it might have been less, time flies, but we have what's referred to as a 70% flex contract. And to show you some of the creativity we have, we wanted to have options for people coming into the community. And what we heard is, how can we have more predictable cash flows coming out of our pocket if we do have to go to the health center? When I say the health center, that's anything above independent living. If we have to go there because our needs change, how do we have more predictable cash flow? Nobody in the Northeast knew. Nobody down the East Coast knew. We found one community in Texas that said, we have this option. It's called a flex option. And it's been well received in our community. Kathleen, if you want to talk to us about it, we're more than happy to share with you. That's the other thing with not-for-profits. We typically will share a lot of information. We want to ensure all of our fellow not-for-profits are beating the pants off the for-profits because we're in it forever. We make long-term commitments. We don't want an out strategy. And we think we could deliver better care because we make those long-term commitments. So we called up this community in Texas. They walked us through. We said, that sounds really good. Let's run the numbers on it. Let's see if we can put that in place. So the way it works is you pay an entrance fee. At the end of your contract, it's 70% refundable. So as a first person, couples, only the first person entrance fee is refundable. But it's still 70% refundable. It's refundable when you leave the community and your independent living unit has been resold. Then you get 70% of that first person entrance fee back. So we said, how do we come up with an option where you can actually use that 70% refund, even though it's not contractually owed right now, yet those two conditions haven't met? If you go to the health center, maybe you vacated your independent living apartment, but you haven't left the community, you're still vibrant. So we allow you to actually use that future refund as a line of credit. So if you were paying, I'm going to make up a number now for the heck of it, if you were paying $2,500 a month in independent living, if you move to the health center, you'll pay more than $2,500 as the fee, but what we said is, we'll keep it at $2,500 for you, cash out of your pocket, and whatever the difference is between that cost and the discounted cost in the health center, it will draw down on that future entrance fee refund. So essentially, you have predictable cash flows. This has been the majority. We have probably sold 60 or 70 of these contracts over the years. It's the vast majority of the contracts in force at RiverWoods Manchester. And again, it provides you with more predictability. You know my kids will call me a dinosaur, but you'll know how much that check you're writing every month, and they're saying, well, you could Venmo it, Dad. Or, you could do an electronic transfer, and we do have actually bank transfers. We can do it electronically, but writing that check, it's the same amount every month, and that future refund will just get reduced by that contract type. You want to pop up?
Yes. And I think my microphone isn't working, so I just want to say this 70% contract is important for a number of reasons. We have other nonprofit CCRCs in New Hampshire. Some of them offer a refundable contract, some of them don't. So with some of them, you'll get money back when you leave the community or if you pass away to your estate. But no one in New England has a contract that offers you access to this money while you are still living. We're the only people in New England that have this contract. As Kevin said, it provides you predictability in cash flow, and you can access this during your lifetime. So I just want to make that point very clear. It's been super popular since we introduced it, and it's a smart financial investment. So that's it.
Thank you. Just a few quick slides on the business model. I couldn't completely leave this on the desk at home. I'm a simple person. I am a visual learner. I'm married to an occupational therapist. She tells me almost every day I'm a visual learner, so I've accepted that. So I come up with little charts to help me understand the business and hopefully help you understand the business as well. But really, the business model is quite simple. There are quirks to CCRC accounting, but it works like this. The one-time entrance fee, so we just talked about that. Think about green as cash coming in, red as cash going out. Resident joins the community, pays a one-time entrance fee. We take that cash. We were going to use it on the far left there. We're always reinvesting in our infrastructure. We have to stay current. We have to stay crisp and contemporary. So we're always investing in capital expenditures, large projects, and I'll show you a few of what we've done on that. We also have, just like a mortgage at home, we have principal that we repay on our debt over time. So we're using some of that entrance fee cash to pay that out. Some of that entrance fee cash will stay on the balance sheet. It will build reserves because you never know what's going to happen. I hope there's not a pandemic for quite a period of time now, but you never know what might be coming down the pipe. You want to have reserves to be able to cover yourself and to weather the storm. And while you have those reserves, those entrance fees and those cash and investments on the balance sheet can actually generate investment earnings for us, which the investment earnings allow us to mitigate some of the operating expenses that are part of the business. So that's the first wave. The second column there is the ongoing monthly service fees. Our expectation is cash coming in on a monthly basis mostly from monthly service fees, but from investment income and from donations, should be available and should cover our cash operating expenses. So gas in the vehicles or heating expense, paper supplies, legal expenses. That's how we picture running our business model for RiverWoods Manchester. And then that last arrow down below, we want to make sure that we have a solid balance sheet and that we are more than covered to be able to meet our contractual obligations when an entrance fee refund is owed. So we're taking it in, but at the end of the day, there is a refund associated when both those conditions have been met. You've left the community and your independent living unit has been resold. So really, quite simple. I mean, there are some nuances, some quirks to the accounting, but that's how it works in a nutshell. There we are, nestled up in around 600 or so conservatory acres around the community. This doesn't do it justice. I mean, I'm not sure if we've had a seminar yet to show the actual campus. It's beautiful.
Not yet.
We will. If this drone took you in, you would see all of the money we have reinvested in this organization over the last 6 years. And that's through July, so that's 6 years. We're probably at about $25 million of reinvestment in the community since the affiliation early July 2016. And to put that into perspective, it was Birch Hill. When Birch Hill was first set up and constructed, about $30 million or so of bonds were issued to pay the cash to build a community and get it up and running. So we've basically almost put that back into the community in the last 6.5 years. All of the different areas where we made adjustments, brand new apartments, brand new common areas, the roofing and siding is almost done. I will say this, I was really impressed with that we had roofing and siding that lasted 30 years. And especially up here in New Hampshire, I was surprised. Last couple of years, we were running drones over the roofs just to make sure everything was good, and it was surprisingly in good shape. But we were to the point now where we wanted to make sure, one, we wanted to redo the siding and make it contemporary. You're going to do siding, you stop with the roof and you work your way down. It's brand new. And this is an accountant's way of telling you how young the community is and the infrastructure. It's a financial ratio called average age of plant or average age of facility. Lower is better. And you're actually able to take your reinvestment, your numbers on your property, plant, and equipment on the balance sheet, and you can come up with an average age of the organization. And 10 years ago, it was about 16 years old in accounting terms. And if I'd gone back 2 or 3 years before that, the community was almost 24 years old from an accounting standpoint because it didn't reinvest. It was too small. It wasn't fully occupied. It didn't have the ability to reinvest in itself. So in accounting terms, it was 24 years old, and in real time, it wasn't actually 24 years old. So it was dated. So we have cut that in half, and then we've cut it in half again. And this is, other than RiverWoods Durham, this is the youngest campus in the system. It's less than 8 years. And when you go to see it, it shows. It's absolutely beautiful, crisp, and contemporary. Very inviting. So the product, I mean, Cathleen has covered some of this already for you, but you don't own a tangible asset. You're not going to pay real estate taxes directly. You will have a physical address at the community if you opt into one of the cottages. But what you have is you have that insurance contract regulated by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. with one of the stipulations is this is your place to reside. This is your independent cottage. If you need future healthcare needs, then you would transition into the main building where we deliver those services. High quality services there, no doubt. As a cottage resident, you have access to all the amenities of the organization, all the programming, all the dining, all the healthcare, all of the committees, whatever you want. And I was looking at the map, it's just a hop, skip, it's a quick walk right to the main campus there. So you're kind of off the beaten path, but everything is right next to there if you need it. From a deposit standpoint, and we'll talk about this further as it goes forward, but the next step as we start taking deposits will be a 10% deposit of the future entrance fee to reserve that while they get built. That 10% will go onto the RiverWoods Manchester balance sheet. It's completely segregated. We set up a full liability for it. We actually have on the asset side, we have what's called board designated reserves. We fully reserve against that. So we know whatever our wait list deposits are, they are fully reserved from our assets. And then when you close, depending on the priority programs and the benefits you have, you'll get those and your entrance fee with whatever interest that we have promised would be applied. You'll be less to the overall entrance fee you pay at the end of the day. The project itself, we are still working on construction pricing. Anybody in construction? No, they're out constructing right now because it is a crazy market out there. Real estate market has been booming for the last 5 years. The pandemic certainly has made that even more prevalent. Supply chain disruptions, labor shortages, people who have retired out. There's a lot of construction challenges, so we will work with a professional construction manager, one that we have worked with for probably 2 decades now. They're in the process of really going out and bidding this. We are expecting final pricing soon that we need to work through, but that will inform us ultimately on our entrance fee pricing. So I'm sure Cathleen is not disclosing that today because we don't know, but our expectation for how we actually will build these cottages are we will obtain a short-term construction loan. We don't anticipate having to issue permanent debt. We'll get a construction loan, and our expectation is the entrance fee pool coming in from the first wave of residents will actually retire the majority, if not all, of that construction loan. And then the big benefit is the ongoing monthly service fees, less the cost associated with the cottages, will actually be accretive to the bottom line. It will generate positive margin for the overall community. And what that means is every single resident, including you, will have a bigger base of payers. More payers with a fixed amount of cost means less that each of you are paying on an ongoing basis. And that's really important in this marketplace because staffing costs are incredibly expensive. Anywhere we have the ability to use incremental revenue to offset and growing expenses, it benefits our residents. We talked about this, so I'm not going to belabor the point much longer, but depending on your situation, even as an independent living resident, a portion of your entrance fee and a portion of your monthly service fee will be deductible as a prepaid medical expense. Typically, the tax laws could change at any time, but typically the non-refundable portion of your entrance fee is deductible the year as a prepaid medical expense the year you put your contract in force. Ongoing for Manchester, somewhere around 10% or so of the independent living monthly service fee is deductible as a prepaid medical expense on an annual basis. If you were receiving assisted living, memory support, or nursing care, 100% typically of your monthly service fee is deductible. And I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen now because
actually,
these maps.
I'm going to go through the cottages, but before I do, it's great to have Kevin here because he has such a grasp on the financials. I want to just take a pause and say if you have questions on anything that Kevin just went over, if you can write them down or raise your hand because I don't want you to forget any questions you might have on the financial So write them down, or you have a question? Yes.
So and what I'll do is I'll repeat the question instead of running a microphone through the audience. So the question was, flex plan sounds great. Why doesn't the rest of the group have it? It's something that right now the other organizations are. It hasn't been as much demand in the other two markets. So the Durham and Exeter markets have typically been very comfortable with a Type A contract and normally 90% refundable, and they have high wait lists. I think as we go forward, choices, it's something that we will look at, and we will probably make an offering for the other ones as well. It just hasn't been as in demand in those two communities.
And I would jump in and say Exeter and Durham are Type A contracts, so there is more cash flow predictability in a Type A than in a Type B. In a Type B contract like RiverWoods Manchester, your entrance fee is going to be slightly lower, your monthly fee is going to be slightly lower, and then when you move to healthcare, your costs do increase. So it really makes sense for Type Bs, less sense and less call for Type As. Okay. This one is for Kevin, and raise your hand if you've got raise your hand if you've got a card. In the flex contract, if we leave, what happens to the tax deduction we took in the first year?
So that is something that typically I'm not a tax consultant, I mean, or a tax attorney or a tax CPA. I think typically what individuals have done, it's very rare that somebody leaves within the first year, but there is the possibility that you may have to file an amended return depending on that, because it was for future medical expense that you're not getting now. But what I would say is have that discussion with your tax advisor. They may say, well, you were there for a period of time, you're actually able to keep some of that, but you do run the risk of having to file an amended return.
This one, are both entrance fees? Oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
It would be, so the question was it was the first year, and then what happens if it's year 2, year 3, year 4? I would give the same advice. I won't speculate, but normally when they were looking at that, they would probably look at somebody's life expectancy. And so if you had a life expectancy when you moved in at 10 years and you move out at year 4, let's say, they may say that 6/10 of that you didn't actually earn. You may have to amend it. But again, I actually have somebody else do my taxes because that is not my area of expertise.
Okay. Another question, and again, if you have them, just raise your hands. We'll collect the cards. Are both entrance fees available to offset healthcare costs for a couple? And Kevin can answer this. But
so the first person entrance fee is available for either one of you. The second person entrance fee on this contract is 100% non-refundable. That would not be available for the line of credit.
And the second person entrance fee is a fraction of the
tiny.
two-person
That
entrance
is correct.
fees. It's not, so two can leave cheaper than one. So it can be a couple, it can be two friends, it can be brother, sister. We don't judge.
And what I would say there too, though, is remember, RiverWoods Manchester is a benevolent 501c charitable organization. It has a benevolence clause. So if you get to the point where you have outlived that future entrance fee, we've accepted you into the community, so we've done our financial analysis. We feel comfortable that you are able to meet all of your obligations. Once you're in the community, if you've worked through all of that line of credit and you're still going strong, you've outlived your assets, then you would make a request for us to bring to the board for financial assistance. So it's not like at the end of that 70%, if you've blown through that, you're asked to leave the community. That's when we would make a request for financial assistance and true benevolence from the overall community.
And when you think about what happens, statistically, if you live in a community like RiverWoods, Manchester, you will likely live up to 5 years longer than if you lived at home. And we are all living generally longer than we expected. So I think the benevolence and having that assurance is huge.
Yeah,
Kevin.
the phrase we haven't used yet is, and we probably should, shame on us, right, is peace of mind. Coming to a life plan community, a continuing care retirement community, provides you with peace of mind. You know that you've really secured your future. You've been able to make a want-based decision, not a need-based decision. And it's peace of mind for all of you, and it's peace of mind for your children or for others that might be working with you. They know that you're well taken care of.
Please explain your reinsurance arrangement.
My reinsurance?
I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure.
Who had this question? Can you explain what you mean? Can you repeat the question?
No, we don't have, no, that. So maybe, so let me see if, let me get at this. If our contract says in the health, if we're obligated to provide assisted living, memory support, nursing care, and our intent is to provide that on site, we do have agreements with other providers. If there is ever any reason where we're full at the lodge, we call our health center the lodge, we still owe that obligation, but we have reciprocal agreements with other providers similar to us where we could manage overflow back and forth. Not so much reinsurance, but yeah, we do not. No.
Okay. Residing in a New Hampshire CCRC has obvious advantages. Are there advantages for RiverWoods being a New Hampshire CCRC versus being located in another state?
There are definitely tax benefits in the state of New Hampshire. You know, no income tax, no sales tax, no capital gains tax.
No capital gains tax.
I mean, I'm looking outside. Even in Manchester at a golf course, close to the city, it's beautiful. Quality of life, technology. I mean, there's technology around here. I mean, I could probably not. Healthcare. I mean, I mean, we are probably an hour from Boston, maybe an hour and 10 minutes to some of the best medical facilities in the world.
Yep.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
Okay.
Those are non-financial.
We have another question. I'm not exactly sure what the question is, but how does the right to occupy a RiverWoods cottage differ from, quote, life estate right to occupy a home? Neither is ownership. Are you familiar with
I don't.
life estate?
I'm not familiar with the life estate at home, so I can't really
Again,
answer
if that's
that.
your question, do you want to explain it? How does a right to occupy a RiverWoods CCRC cottage differ from life estate?
I will say this, is that your question? So our insurance contract does not fall under tenant law. It actually is it's self-enclosed in the insurance regulations of the state. So it is totally different than tenant law, if that helps you answer that. Okay.
Okay, these are great. Keep them coming. Can a deductible lump sum deposit be spread over multiple years?
So the deposits are not tax deductible because they're a deposit that you have not actually put an insurance contract in force. So any deposits that you leave, they do not have any tax deductibility associated with them until you actually execute your contract and that deposit is applied to the full entrance fee. And then when that happens, the whole amount is then applied, is then considered for the deductibility piece. But a deposit is a deposit. It's refundable
Yeah.
upon demand, and you get it back at any time, so there would be no IRS deductibility on that.
And I'll get into that in a couple minutes. We have a couple more questions for Kevin specifically. He's not going anywhere, but if you have more financial questions, write them down, because I think a lot of them are in people's heads. If living independently in a cottage and one or the other needs assisted living services, can we still stay in our cottage? So I'll take that. So if you have a couple that's in a cottage and one person needs to move permanently to the health center, the other member of the couple can stay in the cottage while that person, their spouse or their friend, is in the health center. And it's important to note that the door does not lock behind you from a healthcare standpoint. So if you get pneumonia, you have a tough winter, you need to go over to assisted living for a couple weeks, get a little stronger, then you can come back to your cottage. You can go back and forth as your healthcare needs dictate. And the RiverWoods Manchester contract provides 30 free days every year to an independent resident for the health center. So if you need the health center, you can go there, come back, go there, come back. It's when you permanently need to transfer that you transfer, and your spouse can stay in that cottage while you occupy a private room in healthcare.
But we don't bring services into the independent apartments.
Correct.
You can, if you have long-term care.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So, right.
So
If we don't bring services into the independent apartment, however, if you have long-term care insurance policies, you have the ability to actually stay in the independent apartment longer and bring your and coordinate to bring your own services and utilize that benefit to pay for it. That's becoming more and more common from what we're seeing from our residents.
Does that answer your question? Okay. And you have a question? So the question is, in that case, if you're living in a cottage and you're paying the cottage fee and your spouse permanently transfers to healthcare, then you will pay a different fee for the spouse who's permanently transferred in healthcare. And yes, so you're paying your fee on the cottage and you're paying a healthcare fee when your spouse has permanently transferred. Yep. That is both people on the contract. So if both people sign a contract as a couple, then the 70% can be applied to the person who is in the health center. Does that answer?
Yeah, one contract, it's two people, one contract, it's a joint contract. So once you execute that together, all of the benefits are either one of the, they're interchangeable.
Correct.
That is
Yes.
correct, yeah.
Yes, and you don't have to take the drawdown, but you can take the drawdown. Yes.
Point of clarification, because it seems to me with proximity, you're already having a full-service staff provide, the assisted living system. Why wouldn't it be possible to have those two guys just go in and take care of the house?
So just clarifying, if you want to hire someone to come into your house to provide assisted living needs, you can do that separately. But we are not staffed to individually send nurses to every single person's home to conduct assisted living in their home. Correct.
So, but it's a great question. It's one we wrestle with. So earlier when I showed you, someplace else, something else, we have bantered around as a system a home health agency. We just haven't been able to find the right model for that, but that would be something along the lines. But we can't do that. We don't do that now, and the availability of staff is really precluding that. No,
The
no.
answer would satisfy me.
And-
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say, one element that we didn't really focus on for CCRCs is you have to come in when you are independent. So you have to financially qualify and you have to medically qualify. Part of being a vibrant community is that we have the majority of our residents are independent residents. So if we have a community where we are bringing assisted living, then memory support, then nursing care to everyone in their home, that changes the community. That changes the community. It also changes the financial structure because we have to have much more staff if we are going to everybody's home to provide nursing services.
Just to clarify something for me and maybe everybody else. Are you saying that those folks that are living in lodge, okay, somebody needs independent, assisted living in their apartment, you don't do that? They have to actually move into
So
assisted living section?
just to clarify, the lodge is our healthcare center. If you're living independently and you need episodic, like all of a sudden you need assisted living, you can go to the lodge, receive assisted living for 30 days every year for free before you permanently transfer. But you go to the lodge to get that supportive care. You're getting 3 meals a day, you're getting nursing care, you get that at the lodge. You don't get it in your apartment. We don't, okay.
That makes it clear.
Okay, all right, we don't deliver assisted living to your home, to your independent home. Okay, was that your question also?
That was my question.
Okay,
We're talking about the cottages. There are buildings there with apartments in them.
Yeah.
What the name of home? Cottages as homes.
we consider your apartment to be your home. Your cottage is your home. So that's how we use the word home, but thank you for clarifying that. Okay, all right.
Us
we got a
finance
couple-
guys say units, but then we get,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we haven't, you have a question, you haven't? 30 days.
What if you do need more? Do you need 31 days, then do you automatically transfer on a more permanent basis
So
to assisted?
the question is, if you need more than 30 days in assisted living, it's very unusual for someone to move for a month to the lodge. So a permanent transfer is a conversation with you, your physician, your family, and your partner if you have one. We have that conversation with you well in advance. So it's not like day 31, we're gonna start the meter running. We will have a conversation with you to make a discussion, to have a discussion about permanently transferring. That's also a benefit of a not-for-profit is it's a conversation, we're not trying to get you to move anywhere. And that's been true for the 29 years we've been around.
wait, follow up.
Okay, follow
Wait.
up and then I'll get you.
If you could define memory support versus care.
Okay,
You use the word care,
that's,
that was memory, it was support.
the question is define memory support versus care. So we have independent living, assisted living, memory support, and nursing care. This is new language because we consider memory support to be helping people with memory issues. Nursing care is just providing nursing care. It's really semantics. There are different levels of care in assisted living. Memory support is for people who have Alzheimer's, dementia, some form of that. And it's just a term that's a little bit more respectful of people who are trying to live independently with memory issues.
If that were to develop, then would they need to move that individual into another area within the
We do have, within the lodge, we have assisted living, memory support, and nursing care. Those are 3 distinct levels of care with 3 distinct needs. You can get that care anywhere within the lodge, but we do have a dedicated memory support section where folks with memory issues are together. Okay.
And what we see with that as well is a lot of times it's one part of a couple, and the couple will remain in independent living, and it's the more independent spouse who is taking on a more strong role in helping his or her or the other spouse maintain in the independent apartment. At the end of the day, what it is, it's all about safety. Mm-hmm. So if that individual can be safely cared for by a spouse in the independent apartment, we're probably going to be comfortable with that. But typically what happens then is the independent spouse says, I'm exhausted, I really need to have a good night's sleep, and then it's a discussion. And it is a discussion. There's no magic number. It is, if anything, we err on the side of being ultra-conservative because we want our residents to be comfortable with the change.
You had another question, then I have another question here and a question there. Okay, good question. On what day do you have to qualify to join the community? You have to qualify generally twice. First, when you qualify financially, and then second, before you move in. So a lot of people have had this question, like, can I qualify and then wait a year or 2 and not go again? Even if you are on, as we have folks in RiverWoods Exeter who are on a wait list, and RiverWoods Durham who are on a wait list, they qualify when they join the wait list, then they qualify again before they move in. Because they could be waiting 5 years before they move in, we still have to qualify that you are able to move in as an independent resident. So if you put down a deposit and you don't qualify, medically, you get 100% of your deposit back. But this is why I recommend that people don't wait a long time, because some people will say, I'm not sick enough to move in. Well, if you're sick, you can't move in. So you have to be able to live independently, and you get better experience out of it as well. Can let me just finish the presentation, and I still have more of the presentation to go. Sir?
Yes, the transfer from independent living to one spouse into an apartment, there's a price differential for that. The primary cost of a cottage is basically the healthier of the two people. What kind of increment do you find as you go into the apartment or facility? I know that's the point that healthcare insurance starts cutting in to help cover that.
You want to take that?
Do we have the healthcare rates on the?
I think we do. I think we have those in the appendix if I can finish the rest of the presentation. Yeah. And just to clarify, we have cottages and apartments for independent adults. The lodge is a health center. So you can move into an independent apartment or an independent cottage. But when you move into the health center, it is a private apartment there. Okay. Last question, and then I'm going to move on because we are running late. 2 questions. We are running late. If circumstances change, would it be possible to move from a cottage to an apartment? Example, one of the partners passes away and surviving partner doesn't want to live alone. Yes. So yes, that is possible. And in all CCRCs, the price is dependent on the size. So the larger the space that you have, so if you have a cottage, that's our largest, the more the entrance fee and monthly fee are going to be. If you choose a smaller apartment home, it'll be a smaller entrance fee and monthly fee.
All right, real quick
Okay.
here. Can you give us an idea of the pattern of increases in monthly service
No,
fees?
good
So prior to this past year, they have typically ranged for the campus around 3.5%. This last year, effective July 1, given all of the inflation in the industry, we raised our rates at 6%. How we look at this is every year we go to the budget and we go to our managers, our supervisors, our directors, and our EDs and say, start at zero, build the budget, zero-based budgeting, deliver the same quality services, and don't just add an adder year over year. So I can't tell you what it looks like as we move forward, but it really is a reflection of the prices in the marketplace, and we do everything we can to mitigate and offset those as much as possible across the system.
And for the past 5 years, I think it's been 4%.
It's been about three and a half, up until last year.
Is that your last one?
Yes.
Do you have the clicker? Sorry. Okay. I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the cottages and the floor plans. And I love these questions because they're really good. So keep the questions going. Keep writing them on the cards. So I think you all have seen, this is our main campus. How many folks have been to RiverWoods Manchester? Okay, great. Kevin, you don't get. How many have not? Okay, I really encourage you to see the campus. As Kevin said, we have put $26 million in the last 6 years into the campus, and it is beautiful. So this is the existing campus. These 4 cottages already exist. Those were built in, I think, 2015. These are all the new cottages. The building, the road exists. These are all the new cottages. There's 2 sizes. The sugar maple is 1,348 square feet. The white oak is 1,656 square feet. After this presentation, you are all walking away with the floor plans. So you will get a copy of the floor plans along with the CDP if you haven't filled those out. Okay, so this is the sugar maple, and there are 10 of these, 1,348 square feet. I will tell you that we have reinvented these cottages. So if you are nearby RiverWoods Manchester, don't knock on the door of the 4 existing cottages because number 1, it's their home. And number 2, it doesn't look anything like what you're going to be getting. This is a 2-car heated garage that opens into furnace and all the utility stuff. Over here is a utility room, a mud room with a washer and dryer. Here is a front entrance with a foyer. You've got gas fireplaces, a beautiful great room that's very open, a lot of windows. The great room opens out onto an outdoor porch. Here is a beautiful kitchen island with a kitchen right here. So this is facing all these windows. The door from here goes into the master bedroom. From the master bedroom, we have a walk-in closet, and we have a walk-in bath and a master bath right here. If you come back out here and go from the kitchen, here is a guest bathroom and the second bedroom. So very spacious, another walk-in closet adjacent to the second bedroom, which also can be used as an office or a craft room or, a den, anything you'd like. So this is all brand new design and construction. The white oak also has a 2-car heated garage with utility closet there. Your front entrance has a foyer. In this floor plan, your office is on the left immediately as you come in. Your utility mudroom is on the right with a walk-in closet. You walk straight into a very large living room with an adjacent sunroom, which connects to the outdoor porch and the kitchen here. Your master bedroom has access to the outdoor, well, it has a window to the outdoor porch. It also has a walk-in closet, a walk-in ensuite bath. Coming out here, you also have the large closet, a guest bath, and the second bedroom. You've got the office and the second bedroom in the White Oak. There are 8 of these homes available, 1,656 square feet. Just to go through what I just said, that we've got the 2-car garage, the vaulted ceilings, which are going to make these cottages really spacious and really feel big, the great room concept. We have a kitchen pantry, huge master bedroom with walk-in closet. We've got that utility room, which is really helpful with a side-by-side washer and dryer. The outdoor porch, not the outdoor poor, has great wooded views. We are adjacent to a 600-acre nature conservancy and the gas fireplace. And the White Oak has this plus the sunroom and the cottage and the office. As I said, 18 of you will be able to move in to these cottages. It's just your choice if you want to be one of those 18. We offer 2 levels of benefits. The Platinum is our highest level, and the first 9 people that commit get the Platinum level. The second is the Gold, and the second level, the second group of 9 get the Gold. The Platinum benefit means guaranteed occupancy. This is huge. What this means, we had a couple of conversations about qualifying. What this means is if you make a deposit and you move in and you commit to moving into a cottage and something happens between now and when the cottage is finished, we will guarantee you occupancy at RiverWoods Manchester.
Something happens medically.
Something happens medically. Thank you, Kevin. So something happens medically and you would otherwise not pass, we will guarantee occupancy and you can move directly into whatever level of care you need. We only do this when we are building new construction. We never do this any other time. Also, you get 1 free month of monthly service fees. You get a downsizing credit of $2,500, which is really worth a lot when it comes to downsizing your existing homes. How many people feel like they don't have any junk or clutter in their house? Okay, this is so worth the money. So we have downsizing professionals we work with that can help you with your clutter. And a design credit of $5,000. So everybody that commits to a new cottage gets the opportunity to design it. You get to pick your granite, your flooring, your paint, all of the specifics, the appliances. And if you want to upgrade, we will give you $5,000 to upgrade your home. If you're at Gold, you also get the guaranteed occupancy. So if something medically happens to you between the time you deposit and the time we open, we guarantee occupancy for you and your partner or spouse to move in at the level you need. You also get 1 free month of monthly service fees, that really important downsizing credit of $2,500, and then you get a design credit of $2,500. Those are for the first folks that make the commitment of the 10% deposit. We anticipate having pricing by December, a month from today. We are still finalizing the construction. So if you want to be among the first to make a deposit, the one thing you need to do before December is complete a confidential data profile. We call it the CDP. It's your age, income, assets. We have them available today. We will hand them out to you. Some people in this room have already completed them. In order to make an appointment, you need to have a CDP completed. So we take a look at your finances, your medical status. It enables you to move forward with a deposit. So if you have filled it out, you will be among the first that we call. You all have numbers assigned, which is the time each person made the deposit. So we call you in order of numbers as long as you have completed your CDP. We have Kevin's team review each CDP individually, so I would encourage you to submit it early. You want to have it submitted before December, before we have pricing.
If you want a landline, that's separate.
November 30th, we are going to have a resident panel talking about what life at RiverWoods Manchester is like. So I'd absolutely encourage you to do that. This panel is only for the Cottage Priority Program members. So it's only the folks here who are going to have this experience. Early December, I think our date is December 5th, Kevin, tentatively, is when we are going to release the pricing and start calling you in for appointments. So again, if you have your CDP completed by that time, we will call you in. Spring 2023, construction will start, and you will be able to move in summer of 2024. So the question I had earlier, when is construction? You will move in 2024. Spring, we are hoping to start construction, and spring is also the time when we will have personalizations. You'll be able to say, here is what I want my home to look like, and choose all of your personalizations. Okay, so now we have more questions. So please write your questions down on cards for myself or Kevin, and people will go around and collect them. And then we get lunch. So thank you guys for your patience. We have a couple questions here.
Appropriate if this comes up again, you could talk about.
Okay, so I have two questions so far. One is, what is the deadline for the CDP? The deadline for the CDP is November 15th. So if you could complete your confidential data profile by November 15th, we can get it done in time for to call you in on December 5th. The second question is actually a reminder for those folks who are asking about, could we get assisted living in the home? We do have enhanced living services available for hire by the hour in independent living as needed to keep people safer longer. So our nurse practitioner oversees this. Right now it is $35 an hour. So you do have the ability to bring help in to the home if you need it and want to pay for it out of pocket. Okay. Another question. My healthcare providers in Massachusetts advised me to live in Massachusetts because state services are much better in Massachusetts. Is this true? How does RiverWoods deal with the difference between the states and their services? So I would say we provide, if you move to RiverWoods, you don't have to worry about services. We are providing those services. If you want to stay in Massachusetts and stay in your home and take a chance on the state providing you services, that is another option for you. I am what I call a control enthusiast. I like control. And when it comes to who is going to provide my health care, I want to know in advance who's going to provide it, what is the quality, and where am I going to get it. That's why I like a CCRC, because I know that if I need any of these services, RiverWoods is going to provide it. I hope that answers the question about the states. Does RiverWoods have a plan to move to Massachusetts? No, we don't. It says, if yes, when? So right now, as Kevin said, we are a small family of communities. We are focused all of our efforts right now on cottages in Manchester. That's the only place we're building cottages. We're not building them anywhere else. We do not have immediate plans to move to Massachusetts or plans within the next few years.
Maybe Wyoming. Just
Maybe
kidding.
Wyoming.
I hear that.
I think I'll start one in Hawaii. So, no, we don't have plans to move to Massachusetts. This comes up a lot when we talk about someplace else or somewhere else. I think every week, Justine and Kevin get a call from somebody who owns a piece of land saying, do you want to build here? Do you want to build there? We move like a herd of turtles. We've grown faster than any of our counterparts in New Hampshire, but we still make very conservative decisions. So we have no place.
I mean, literally, I just signed 2 non-disclosure agreements, so I can't give you any more information than that in the last week and a half. So there are other, and these are not necessarily distressed organizations. It's smaller organizations that are seeing that it's time to affiliate with a stronger system and are reaching out. So I can't tell you where they're located either.
Second question, do residents earn interest on their entrance fee? Very good question. I can't believe we didn't talk about this, but if you put down a 10% deposit in December when we call you and you say, I want a cottage, you will earn guaranteed 4% simple interest if you move in. If you choose not to move in, we're not going to give you interest. We're not a bank, but you do earn interest on that deposit.
However, once the entrance fee and your contract is in force, that entrance fee becomes RiverWoods Manchester's money on the balance sheet. There's not interest that is earning on that entrance fee. You'll get 70% back of the first person entrance fee when all the other conditions are met, but there's not interest on that as it's with the organization.
I'm on my last question. You guys have been
more.
a great crowd. 2 more. So just raise your hand if you have more cards. 600-acre forest, will this ever be developed? No, this is Nature Conservancy land. So it is protected as a conservancy. Okay, Kevin, you're up. I have no more?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, where are cottages on map on the screen? Let me go back. This is a better view. You can't see the cottages because they're not built yet. Just so in that photo, in that drone photo, they're not built, so you can't see them, but this is the campus. These are the 4 cottages that are currently built, which you can't see in the drone photo because they're covered by trees, and these are the other ones that we're building, and this is the Nature Conservancy. Okay. I love Kevin giving me all the non-financial. When do we need to pay the balance before we move? Good question. We are going to do periodic payments, so you pay 10% when you put 10% guarantee or 10% deposit to hold your cottage, and then we will have 2 other progress payments during that time before 2024, and then you may pay the balance when you move in 2024. I don't.
Wait, what?
What are the? So the question is, we are guaranteeing 4% interest on the first 10% deposit.
The amount, we've got interim payments.
Yes.
One of the first payment's going to be 10% down.
Right.
What are the percentages of the second and third payments before the
I don't think we've made that decision yet.
I don't believe so.
We haven't made that decision yet on the progress payments, but we will let you know that. Probably around the time when we finalize the pricing. So and we're hoping that December 5th is the time we get the pricing finalized. Yes.
No.
No, that's why we haven't finalized the pricing, because we're still negotiating with the construction companies. Yes.
We will.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do what's referred to as a guaranteed maximum price contract, so that there will be an absolute amount that our organization would be exposed to. Any savings would be shared amongst the contractor and us.
And this is a contractor we've worked with for 20 years.
Pretty close, yeah.
The other piece that I want to reinforce is this is the lowest price these cottages will ever be. As soon as we build them, they will increase in price. Yes. Why would you not be able to move in? Okay, so so the question is, if it's 2024 and you can't move in, what happens? So your deposit is fully refundable at any point in time for any reason. So first of all, you would get your money returned to you less $500 as processing fee. However, if you are one of the 18 people that sign up now, you have guaranteed occupancy, which means if something medically happens to you and maybe your spouse, if something medically happens to one of you, you are guaranteed that to be able to move into RiverWoods Manchester at the level that you need. So let's say your spouse needs memory support. Your spouse can move into memory support and you can move into the cottage. If it's a situation where you can't sell your home, we have worked individually with people to help them get bridge loans, that type of thing. So as Kevin said, Kevin and I have both been here 16 years. We have opened an entire campus during the height of a financial recession. We are very experienced at helping people who have struggles with a temporary situation where they can't sell their home. So generally, we're able to work that out.
Yeah, I would elaborate. Our role isn't to pull the wool out from somebody. It is really we develop long-term relationships, right? And if something comes up, then all we would want is just sit down, have a conversation, problem solve together. You tell us the amount of information you want to share with us, and if we can figure something out, we certainly will. We are notorious for trying to find a way to say yes. And if it doesn't, we'd never force somebody to say yes, but if anything, in this instance, we'd probably, if you're willing to work with us, we would continue to work with you to find some solution that made sense.
Yes, question? We will clarify all of that as soon as we get the pricing together. So I don't know that right now because we haven't signed our contract yet with our vendor, with our construction partner. We don't have a GMP. But as soon as we announce the pricing, we will have all of the progress payments, the timing, the percentage, all laid out. We just don't have it now.
I'm just going to comment.
Okay.
My esteemed team back there told me that the tax deduction for 2021 for the monthly service fees and independent living was actually 23%. So that will fluctuate. I wouldn't go to the bank and say it's always going to be 23% because it's a calculation we have done by an outside consultant every year, and it's based upon the results of the community. But it was 23% for the last calendar year. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have one more question, and then I think we will be we're going to call people by table to the buffet. I know you're all hungry, and we're not going anywhere. Yes, sir.
Two very quick questions just to clarify. You mentioned that the CDP deadline is November 15th.
Yes.
So we have a much lower number for the deposit for the cottages. Does that mean that on November 16th, the waiting list or the $1,000 deposit just goes away, or does that remain?
No, so the question is, the CDP deadline is November 15th. If you don't make it by November 15th, do you lose your spot in line? You don't lose your spot in line. Complete the CDP as soon as you can. We will go through everybody on the list. Every single person will be called. If we call you and you haven't filled out your CDP, we have to go to the next person on the list. So, and we don't keep your $1,000 deposit. If you choose not to move forward, you get your deposit back.
And the other, I think I misused deposit before about the tax deductibility. What I really meant to ask was for the large payment when you've made the whole 100% and you know you're going to be having a contract and moving in, if that's deductible, can that be deducted over a period of years?
I'll restate the question. So you've gone through the whole process, you committed to come into the organization, welcome, you signed the contract, and the year you signed the contract, your entrance fee, how does the deductibility work on that from the entrance fee piece itself, and can you carry it over into multiple years? Is that a good restatement? So in the year you put your contract in force, whatever calendar year that is, typically any part of the non-refundable portion of your entrance fee paid is deductible as a prepaid medical expense. However, you cannot carry that over. I do know this because we've run into it with our residents before. You can't actually carry over those pieces. It's in the year that you put the contract in force. It doesn't have carryover provisions.
Thank you all for your attention, for your questions. We're not going anywhere, so feel free to talk to us, talk to Jen, talk to Katie, talk to Sherry, and thank you very much,